Hey, you guys, happy Tuesday. I'm Trisha Turner. This is Walk Away Wealthy, formerly Anything But Average. And the point of this podcast every Tuesday at 12 o'clock Central is to bring you positive messages, ways that people are growing their business and changing their lives. And I like to bring people on that I especially like. And I like to come up with like a different theme every month. So since this is a new month and it's October, we who are in EXP, Renee is as well, we are going to EXPCon this month. It's the annual conference for EXP. And so I thought, you know what? Let's spend this month talking about EXP because there's so many different misconceptions about it and how it's either changed your life for the better or not, which I don't think we're going to find. But we're going to talk about that today. So first of all, I want to welcome you, Renee, to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Every time I call from Trisha Turner and she's like, hey, you want to hop on something? I'm like, I'm there. Let's go.
So since some people may not know who you are, where you are, let's just get a little bit of backstory. Let everybody know. Of course, I've already said you're with EXP, but where you are in the world and how long you've been in real estate.
Yeah. So I am so I'm Renee Velasquez. I am the founder of the RSVP group. I'm in the suburbs of Cleveland, Ohio, is where I do business. And I've been a realtor since 2008.
All right. So we're going to stop right there. 2008, and I had forgotten it was 2008. So that was the year of the crash, the big crash. And you decided to get into real estate. Why?
Yeah, because, most people looked at me like I was crazy.
Yeah.
They're like, what are you talking about? And my thoughts were, my company that I was working with in corporate America was bought out. They didn't renew a bunch of our contracts. So there I was with a little bit of severance and was like, what the hell am I going to do? I was already an investor and I had, the people that I was using to purchase my investment properties were like, why don't you get into real estate? And at the time I was gainfully employed working 60 hours a week. I'm like, no, my God, there's no way I'm going to get my real estate license. Well, then my company was bought out. I'm like, okay, universe, I hear you.
Yeah.
So I did jump into real estate and I thought everybody was kind of like, wow, like a really awkward time to get into the real estate market. And I felt like, hey, if I could sell real estate then, I could sell real estate in any market. Most people were underwater. There was a lot of short sales, REO properties, which I was, investing in, but wasn't selling real estate in that capacity. But yeah, I figured, hey, if I can sell real estate then, I could sell real estate anytime. And I kind of just dove in.
Here we are now, 2022. Clearly, you must have been doing something right because you're still here and thriving. So in 2008, where did you start? What company?
Well, I was with Keller Williams in 2008. I had a couple of different opportunities at different brokerages, and I just felt like that was the company to be at because they let you brand yourself.
Yep.
And I felt like, wow, I just saw too many people build their real estate business around their brokerage brand. And I thought, wow, well, if I ever wanted to leave a brokerage, like I would have to be starting off from scratch, right? So I loved the fact that Keller Williams allowed me to brand myself, and that was kind of the message that they gave. They also had some unique compensation things that most brokerages didn't have either. So I was very intrigued by that. So for me, that's where it made sense for me to hang my license. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then how long did you stay at Keller Williams?
Yeah, almost 10 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah, almost 10 years. I didn't quite make the 10-year mark. And that's because it wasn't for lack of getting emails from this brokerage and come work with us and we'll do this, that, and the other. I just knew that they weren't going to be able to beat the compensation model as well as, some of the things I was able to experience. And I joke with everybody. I'm like, actually, if you were to slice me right here, little K's and W's would still fall out. I was so grateful for the things I learned and the people that I had the opportunity to work with. But insert this new company, right? So when I joined Keller Williams, especially in Ohio where I was, it was kind of the early onset of Keller Williams kind of coming into the scene. And everybody kind of looked at them like, oh, that's weird. It's different.
Really?
It sounded like it was like cultish and whatnot. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, it sounds really entrepreneurial to me.
Yeah.
So I always looked at them like they were, it was a better situation for me. But the rest of the populace, they were still dealing with the question like, Keller who? who is that company? It was kind of newer in the area. So I joined them when they weren't even as established, especially in my area.
Okay.
So insert this new company that comes along, and I see a couple of my friends leave and go to it. And of course, when you're in an environment where you kind of feel like you're thick as thieves and everybody's kind of close, it's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
ooh, they made a bad decision. They left. They went to this weird new company, and I don't know. And it doesn't sound like something we should do. And they were pretty vocal about that's going to be a bad decision.
Yeah.
So I listened to that for a little bit, but then I kept seeing this come up in my world, and I'm like, I don't know. That person went, and they seem to be doing pretty well, and I don't know. That person went, and they seem to be doing pretty well. And then I watched my real estate coach, the real estate coaching company that I was coaching with at the time, make a move. And I thought, wow. Like, then the bells went off, and I'm like, I probably need to research a little bit more. So actually what I found was I was saying no to something that I really knew nothing about.
Yep.
Which isn't really in my nature. I'm typically very open and like, hey, I'm not real big on making assumptions based on what other people tell me. If somebody's like, ooh, don't hang out with them, they're this. I want to find out for myself.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, I was kind of listening to the hype and I wasn't investigating it for myself. So the light bulb went off and said, well, why don't I just at least go see what it's about? I should know what other brokerage models look like. It only makes sense for me to know that, especially when dealing with my own clients in real estate. So then I finally was open to listen to it. And I was kind of beside myself. I was like, wow, this kind of fills some of the holes that I knew existed in my world. And then some holes I didn't even know existed. Like, it kind of plugged all those. And I was like, wow, this is kind of interesting. But like all things, I still have to overanalyze all of it. And it took me 2 months to really process it all and understand that if my relationships were as strong as I felt they were where I was, then if I were to leave, those relationships should not go away.
No.
And I owed it to myself to see what this was all about and to experience it. And at the end of the day, I'm an independent contractor anyway. If for some reason everything I was learning wasn't the case, if I got in the environment and anything they said wasn't true or it wasn't working out quite that way for me, I always still have this big, vast world called real estate to go to
Yes.
any brokerage that, that would have me or I'd be interested in. So I took that leap of faith, and with naysayers, with people that said, oh, what are you doing? Why would you do that? You're doing really well here. Why are you seeking something else? And I just stuck to my guns, and I thought, well, same as you, many, many years ago when I joined Keller Williams, it was Keller who, oh, that's a new company. Oh, that model's weird, or it's different, or, oh, they've drank the Kool-Aid. Like, you name the stuff. I heard it. And, but those people that started that company all came from different brokerages and said, you had the faith that that was going to work, and you did it. And you didn't believe the hype and didn't believe the naysayers. Isn't it so great that you taught me that? And that now I'm going to go off and do the same thing. Don't you think that's great? And they were like, no, it's not great. I can't believe you're leaving. Right.
Yeah.
But I didn't. I just stuck to it. And I said, hey, I'm going to go learn about this. I'm going to go put myself in the environment and see what happens. And here I am. I made that change very end of 2017. So the very, very beginning of 2000. So I started my year with EXP in 2018.
Okay.
And I've been here ever since.
All right. So I'm going to unpack some of what you just said, because there's a lot in there. And I'm curious too. So y'all that are paying attention to this, none of this is scripted. Like, I'm listening to her talk and I'm processing, like, I want to know more about this and I want to know more about this. So if you're familiar with real estate models, EXP, Keller Williams, kind of similar in some aspects, very different in a lot of aspects. So profit share is something that Keller Williams has. Revenue share is something that EXP has. Mm-hmm. You being at Keller Williams, and you don't have to disclose this, I'm putting you totally on the spot. You were at Keller Williams for 10 years. You were there in like the beginning of time in your area. Did you ever see like big profit share checks? And if you would tell us how big they got, that would be really helpful. And if you don't want to, don't.
Oh, no, I appreciate the question, and I'm probably as transparent as I could possibly be. I wasn't a recruiter at Keller Williams. I
Okay.
just wasn't. If people said, hey, why do you work with Keller Williams? Why do you choose to have your license there? I never say work for. It actually bothers me when people say, oh, I work for this brokerage. I work
Yeah,
for
me too.
Max. I'm like, we're independent contractors. We don't work for anyone. We partner with or we align with.
Yep.
So when I was with Keller Williams, I wasn't a big profit share person. If somebody asked me about why I worked with Keller Williams, I would tell them my reasons why. And if they were interested in hearing more, or they wanted to get into real estate or whatever, I would absolutely give them my thoughts. But I wasn't actively, seeking people to put in my profit share tree, if you will, in my downline, as they called it. I wasn't. Now, I haphazardly ended up attracting like 5 agents, and then those kind of trickled into some other people. But I do remember the first profit share check I got, and I was like, I'm like, cool. It was literally like $4. Well, that's awesome. But I mean, it was still $4. Like if I saw $4 laying in the middle of the street, would I pick it up? Hell yes, I'd pick the $4 up. I'd look left and right and see if somebody dropped it, but I would pick it up, right? So it was like $4. And then I remember getting a check for $99. And I'm like, oh, that felt a little better. Like, that's more than Starbucks, right? I mean, that's real money. If I found $100 on the street, I'd probably be shouting it out to the world. I found $100.
Yeah.
And then it kind of evolved. And I think, honestly, I think the largest check I ever received was like maybe $500. But like I said, I wasn't a big profit share person. So when I made the switch to EXP, that was kind of one of the questions. You're like, well, that's a recruiting model. Like you're not a recruiter. So what do you think is going to be so much better over there? And I'm like, oh, well, thanks for telling me that I'm not that great of a recruiter. But I'm like, that's not why I'm going. There's so many other reasons as to why I'm going. And I don't know if any of them are true because I'm not there yet, right? All I know is what people were telling me and what they were sharing. I need to go check this out for myself. So I was not slaying it in the profit share world, but I was still it was still compensation that I would receive that I wasn't able to receive at any other brokerage model. So any other brokerage model, if anybody came to, that brokerage because of something I said, or, they wanted to follow me or work with me, I would get a Starbucks gift card or a thank you, right? So to me, it made sense to be at Keller Williams because if somebody did happen to come to Keller Williams because of me and potentially name me as their sponsor, I would be compensated something. That was way better than nothing, right? So that $4 check and that $99 check and then that eventual $500 check was cool because nobody else was doing it.
Yep. 10 years. Mm-hmm. Almost 10 years. Almost 10 years you're there. Yeah. Now, fast forward into your life with EXP, and you've been there since beginning of 2018, like a full year. So you've got what, 4 years now, solid, almost 4 solid years in there. You're not going to disclose your revenue share amount. Is it more than $500 a month?
It most certainly is. And in fact, my very first check with EXP was $99. Remember when I started at $4 and then I went to $99 eventually with Keller Williams. My very first check was like $99, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And then it just exponentially went up from there to the point where I was receiving checks that looked more like commission checks from selling property. And then I got a check that was more than what a commission check would look like in selling property. And please understand that commission checks are all relative to the area that you're in, right? Your average sales price is way different than my average sales price in the area that I live. So, that's all relative, but nonetheless, I mean, it was serious money. The first year I can say that it was $20,000 for the year. It was $20,000 extra that year for doing absolutely the same thing I was doing anywhere else. I just became more attractive to agents because I was doing so much business, and because they're like, wow, like you lived at KW. Like I did all the things. I was part of their agent leadership council. I taught classes.
Oh, yeah.
I did all the things, right? And they're like, well, if somebody like you left, what is so great about being over there, right? So people tended to ask me more questions and were more intrigued at that point. So I would just, again, same thing, answer their questions and say, hey, you really got to experience it for yourself. It's, you know, it may not be for everybody, but I'm finding it great for me.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't like I was picking up the phone, calling everybody going, oh my God, you've got to come to EXP. It's the only way. Like that was not what I was doing. I was simply answering questions from people. And what that turned into was those same, you know, handful of people that I attracted over 10 years at KW. I was able to attract that in a very short period of time at EXP based on that. And then it just kind of exponentially went from there. So the compensation model is a revenue, right? So profit you know, this is going out to everybody, but most business owners, they really dig into what their profit is. And, you know, we have certain things that we're allowed to write off, certain things. So sometimes we kind of might manipulate profit a little bit. That's the word I'm going to use.
Sure.
So when you're paid on a profit model, there's top of the line expenses, bottom of the line expenses, there's all that. Whereas at EXP, we have a revenue share model. So if the revenue comes in, it's not tied to that profit necessarily. I mean, there is some stuff in there where they only, you know, share 50% of the profit or whatever, but it's paid on a revenue number. So it's just, you know, made more sense, and the compensation was higher. So for doing the same thing, I was compensated even more. Right.
Yeah.
So it just made sense. And that doesn't even touch. And again, I didn't join for those reasons. That was just a happy result. I joined for much different reasons.
Before you go there, so now embarking on like 4 years in, would you say it's safe to assume that your revenue share, which is paid monthly, has been life-changing?
It's been completely life-changing. And it's life-changing in the fact that, is it life-changing like I'm, you know, floating around on yachts on the regular basis and sipping Mai Tais and not selling real estate? No, that's not where I'm at. It's life-changing to the fact that I make decisions differently now because I have this other compensation that's coming in. So now in the other decisions I make, whether it's investments or whatever, I make them much differently because I have this other compensation coming in, whereas I didn't before. So has my life changed because of that dollar figure? No, I'm not. I don't have 3 yachts and I'm not flying in helicopters, private jets to where I'm going. Might that happen if I keep going where I'm going? Yeah. So, but the real life-changing stuff was it's enabled me to make decisions in a much different way because I have some more safety nets in place that allow me to make more forward-thinking decisions and more bigger risks, right?
Yeah, for sure. And so a lot of listeners and a lot of different real estate agents pay attention to the show. And so there's a lot of talk about revenue share and how it's accumulated and how it's dispersed. And really, are we just out there trying to gather a bunch of real estate agents because we all make more money? That it couldn't be further from the truth. Can you kind of unpack that a little bit and how you contribute to growing that revenue share for you and your people?
Yeah. So I think people immediately go to, well, you just want me to come because you're going to make money off of me. You want to make money off of me. And the reality of it is, no matter what model they're at, there's someone making money off of them. And it's not the agent that was the reason they went to that model. It's the broker.
Yes.
It's the franchise owners. So somebody is making money off of the decision you made. But for whatever reason, when they look at EXP, they're like, well, you just want me because you're going to make money off of me. And it's like, no, I only make money if you make money. That's the only way. So I have now an alignment with what your success looks like. So I want you to be a successful producing agent. If that wasn't the case, I would be that agent that's just picking up the phone, calling everybody that has a pulse, saying you should come to EXP, you should come to EXP, you should come to EXP. That's not the case at all. I don't make anything off of you. I work for a brokerage model where any revenue that comes in, they share that revenue with me because someone came to the company because of a relationship that I had with them, which is it's alignment that you don't necessarily have in other brokerages. So the whole concept of, oh, you just want me because you're going to make money off of me is no. I personally am not going to make money off of you. What's going to happen is the money that the company takes in, they're going to share that with me. And there's a limit, right? There's a limit as to, it's not like you come in and I just make all this money off of you, individually. That's not the case at all. It has definitely got to be a winning situation for everybody, and we're not compensated unless they're compensated. So the model it's completely changed my life.
It has. And then don't you feel like you're more responsible actually to help the agent? Because again, if they're not selling homes, number one, then it proves to the other people out there that we don't know how to teach people how to sell homes. But number two, you also don't make any money, and neither do they.
Yeah. So the word responsible and whatever, like I struggle with some of those words sometimes, because the great part about it is I don't have a responsibility. Like EXP doesn't say, if you bring someone in here, you have to take care of them, and you've got to do this and you've got to do that. That's none of that at all. But I do have an alignment. I do have a partnership. I have a vested interest in them being successful. Yeah. So, but EXP doesn't make me responsible for them at all. They have systems in place to where anyone that comes in could, as long as they tap into the resources that are available, they can be successful. And I'm not 100% responsible for their success. However, I do feel like I have a vested interest in their success, because we're all, swimming in the same direction.
Yeah.
And we all want everybody to succeed. So it's just, it's a different mindset.
All right. So we've unpacked revenue share. So if you guys pay attention to that, you've kind of understood all of that. I'm curious to know, because I've got my own reasons why I switched over and left my own brokerage to go to EXP, and who was like responsible for me. Because in my opinion, there's always that one person, like you said, your mentor, your coach, everything. When that person made a move, then it was different, because then you're like, oh, hold on a second. I trust you. I know you're not going to go do something stupid. And clearly you've researched this. So I'm just going to kind of trust in that you've done the right thing, and I'm going to follow you. That's what I did. And I think you did the same thing. You went in about 10 months earlier than I did. So in that first year that was when the company was like brand new. There was less than 13,000 agents. Was that a hard transition for you, or did you just lean heavily on your mentor, your coach? How did you get through that?
Yeah, so I think when I joined, honestly, I think we were just out on the brink of making the announcement that we hit 8,000 agents. So it was, when we say new, I mean new, right? And I didn't necessarily align with the individuals that I had known in my previous life with Keller Williams that had made that switch. I did align with somebody that I knew in the real estate world that was also affiliated with the people that I was coaching with. So I did trust. I'm like, hey, if they're hearing the same message and doing the same thing. So it made sense for me to align with them. So there was some faith, but again, like you said, I'm watching all of these really, really successful individuals make this change. I'm like, what am I missing? That's when the light bulb went off, and I kept, because I kept doing this. I'm like, I'm not looking over there. I'm fine here. I'm not looking over there. It's not going to look. And then I was like doing one of these things, right. And then finally, when I saw them, and I'm like, wow, these are the people that I entrust to coach and train me, on a regular basis. And they made that move. And here's the other thing that impressed me. They made that move, and they didn't tell me, hey, I'm making this move. You really need to look into this. They allowed me to see them make the move. They didn't say you need to do this. They did it the right way. They're like, hey, we're gonna make this move. We understand that you may not be ready or not, whatever. Saw that they made the move and then allowed me to ask the question. So it wasn't like they were immediately going into a hard sell, like, oh, you need, because of the model.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, we're gonna go check it out too. We're gonna do our due diligence. We're gonna make sure this is everything that it needs to be, before we go out saying anything about it, which impressed me.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, cool. So then they allowed me to kind of self-discover and to reach out and ask the questions. And then once I actually asked the questions and had it presented to me, again, it still took me 2 months to really wrap my brain around disconnecting from a almost 10-year relationship.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So it felt like it felt like a divorce.
I bet.
And I didn't want it to be a divorce. I didn't want to be the stepchild that, didn't get talked to anymore, because I didn't want that. And I felt this loyalty to them for whatever reason, even though they weren't paying my bills.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? So when I finally digested it and said, hey, if this is how deep I feel our relationship is, if I leave, our relationship shouldn't change.
Mm-hmm.
I took that leap. I made that change. Are there some relationships that I realized weren't as strong as I thought? 100%.
Yep.
They weren't. And then were there some relationships that I left and we still have the same type of relationship? Yes. So I guess I needed it, right? I needed to see what that was. And then what I found is when I finally crossed over and I made that change, the environment that I was welcomed into, even though there was only under 8,000 of us, everyone was so willing to share and so willing to give information and to bounce ideas off of and thoughts and whatever. And like, one of the big things to wrap my brain around was the fact that it was like, I was called a cloud company. Then it was a virtual cloud company. And I'm like, I literally got people going, oh, you playing in the clouds today? And I'm like, but it was a hurdle I had to get away from, get my head around. And to be honest with you, business has been practiced that way for years, like years. It just wasn't common in the area that I lived at the time. So everybody was kind of learning at the same time. So it was refreshing. And the ones that had been there a little bit longer, before me, knew a little bit more, and they were able to share, and we would bounce things off of each other. And it was fantastic. And the next thing you know, you started seeing this thing grow and grow further and grow further. And then I was able to share. I'm like, oh, I know this now. I'm able to share with you when you come over. And it was wonderful. And we kind of just grew. And now it's been absolutely amazing. The other things that have been life-changing for me, it's just, I'm so grateful. So
when you look back at that first year, was there ever a time where you were like, I'm just completely lost. I have no one to turn to. I don't know where to go. What am I going to do? Did you ever feel like completely disconnected? Because there's a lot of people that say that it's so big and because it's cloud-based, there's that disconnect. Did you ever go through that?
No. In fact, it was the complete opposite. I had so many resources in front of me. My biggest thing was, well, which resource do I go to first to ask the question, right? Yeah. I had so many resources available to me. And then I just, started, I'm like, I throw a question out, and instead of getting one response 2 hours later, I got 10 responses in 4 minutes, which I wasn't used to.
Yeah.
And if I, any question that I had, I would throw out, I immediately got responses from the community. And that was just using one resource. So then I'm like, okay, well, I asked that there, I got these 10 responses. Let me just confirm that I'm asking this question in the right forum. And I asked it in the next, resource that I had, and immediately would get 5, 6 responses. I'm like, I'm like, okay, this makes sense. So I never felt like I was alone on an island at all. Now I will say that, you have to be willing to ask the question, right? You ever see that kid, or maybe you were that kid where you're in class and it seems like everyone else is getting it, and you don't want to raise your hand and ask the question because you don't want to look stupid, right?
Right. Yes.
You just need to get over that and just ask the question, because I'm telling you, if you're thinking it, if you're wondering what the answer to the question is, I am telling you, there are 15, 16, 20, 30 people that are wondering the same thing, and they're just afraid to ask. So I just got over that and was like, well, I'm just going to ask. Like, I don't know. And then you would have people that would commiserate. They're like, oh my God, I'm so glad you asked that question. I was just wondering the same thing. And
Yes.
they'd get the ton of responses. So I never really had that feeling that I was on an island or anything. In fact, I felt more surrounded by people that were willing to support than I ever had. And these are people like from different states,
Yes.
from different areas. I mean, Trisha, I didn't know you 4
No.
years ago.
Yes.
I don't know if I knew you 3 years ago. I maybe knew you 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But I know that I could pick up the phone and call you on anything and you would answer the phone. And we didn't know each other for 3 to 4 years ago.
Yep.
So, and the reason we know each other is because of how open and just willing to help that everyone is. And that's why I'm so grateful. And what's working for you where you're at may be something that we just start experiencing now where I'm at, and I can learn from you and vice versa.
Yep.
And it's been amazing.
And this is not a knock on Keller Williams, because I was at Keller Williams twice too, and it was the same thing. I only was there the second time while I got my broker's license because I could brand myself just like you. What I find when I think back, like on Keller Williams and my time there, I was surrounded by people that were comfortable. Were they top producers? They were top producers for Keller Williams. What does that mean? That meant, I don't know, 20, 30 homes a year. That was a top producer in that market. And that's great. That's fine. No knock to that. But what I found after just the first year in EXP, it was like, oh my gosh, where have these people been my whole life? Like, these are all people like me. And now we're all part of the same company and we're all in different places in the world. But the moment that we get together, it's like this synergy and this energy just connects us. And just like you just said, we're instant friends. We're instant connectors. We just want to take on the world. And if anything, it's made me want to do more and be more and change the world and not make it. I know that it's all possible because we're better together. And if you can do it, I can do it.
Yeah, 100%. And I know that people that are watching, that was another thing is everybody's like, oh, it's like a bunch of hoorah. And you guys are all like kumbaya around the campfire and whatever. In fact, I think there was a meme shared with me regarding something like that. But it's one of those things that you can't explain until you experience it. And I'm reminded every day of it.
Yep.
It's not like, oh, one time somebody helped me or whatever. And I know when I was back at Keller Williams, they were very sharing. It was a great teaching company. Some things started evolving and changing a little bit, which, it wasn't my favorite thing in the world, but I didn't feel like there was anything better. So I was like, I'm just going to make this work. Right. And then, insert EXP, when I finally allowed to move the hand and actually look at it and listen to it, everything they said kind of made sense. So then when I came over, I'm like, okay, well, we're going to see if everything they say is true, right? Because we're big skeptics. If you're from the Midwest, we're the most skeptical people on the face of the planet. Like, we don't trust anybody, right?
Oh my gosh, yes.
So, but when I got here, so there was a couple of things. One was any question that I had, I would get multiple responses from multiple people and say, hey, well, this is the way I did it. And this is what I know someone else did. And this is how this worked. And they would give you options like, hey, you could do this or you could do that.
Yeah.
It wasn't just, nope, you need to, it wasn't like a dictatorship or whatever. No. It was like, hey, this is the autonomy that you have. This is what you're able to do. So that was amazing. We went into COVID. Right? In 2020, the whole world shut down. And I'm watching some of my real estate friends really struggle because they weren't, staff was at home. They weren't processing checks. There were still real estate transactions that needed to close, but they didn't have access to what they needed access to make sure everybody got paid out. Some states were completely shut down. They weren't allowed to. I was fortunately in a state where we were deemed essential, so I could still actually show property in different ways. But we didn't skip a beat because of the way that the model operates and because we're this cloud-based brokerage. Like all of your information is stored in a cloud, y'all. Just so you know, all of your information is stored in a cloud somewhere. But so our real estate brokerage was based virtual. So everyone still had access to every single program, every single person. There was no, I can't show up at the office and ask Mary Smith how to do something because the office is shut down. I could still ask Mary Smith all my questions because we still had access to each other.
Yep.
The systems and processes were still in place, no matter if the world was completely shut down or completely open. We did not skip a beat, which changed my life, because I know agents that didn't recover from it.
Oh yeah.
So it was huge and eye-opening. And then what happened is that people started realizing that, oh, maybe I don't need the office quite like they say I need the office. Maybe I don't need this particular thing like I've been paying for under the guise that I needed it. And this whole virtual situation it's the norm now, right?
Yeah.
We most of our contracts are written, virtually, and our people are signing from the comforts of their home. And whether you've adopted that technology or you haven't, that's the direction that was heading, and we were at the forefront of it, and it made everything absolutely seamless. That was life-changing.
Yep.
And we haven't even touched stock and all these other compensations that come with being in this model. But for me, the life-changing thing was, like you said, the people that I'm surrounded by, the types of conversations that we have. I remember having conversations about commission splits, and I have conversations with agents on the daily about commission splits. In fact, that's one of their first questions. Well, what's your split?
Yep.
And I know people that are at 100% brokerages, and I'm making more than them.
A lot more.
100%.
Mm-hmm. A lot more.
And they don't. So when we start talking about splits, like, I'm like, okay, great. Well, I made 106%. And they're like, huh? I'm like, yep, I'm at 106% brokerage right now. And they're like, what do you mean? How's that even possible? And it's because of the compensation model, right? So has it been life-changing? 100%. It's been life-changing. It's allowed me to make decisions for me and my family differently. I know personally in my investment business, I would not be, I'm not where I want to be, because we always want to be bigger than what we are, right? We're never satisfied with
No, are you kidding?
I know for a fact that I am more advanced in my investing portfolio than I would be had I stayed where I was, because my mind hadn't been open to what was possible. I had a lid on my thoughts. Yep. And now the lid has been open, and now I know what's possible. And now it's just getting my brain to slow down enough to actually do to bring it to fruition. So
that's the craziest thing. It's like, when I think back, because I reflect on things like all the time. And I think back of when I was just at my own company, I had, income goals and sales volume goals. And I never really had it like all mapped out. Like, what does 20 years look like? What is 10 years? When do I want to stop going? I just didn't, because we were just day to day. But then when I got involved in our group, and because we're honey badgers, and we are an elite group within EXP, and we love our group, and our group is amazing, and there's nothing like our group anywhere in this world. And it's like, when you get around our group of people, I tell people I'm never envious of other people's success. It's inspirational to me. I look at that and I'm like, oh, holy crap. If your income goal is now $10 million a year, then I need to level up. Like, why can't I do that? If you can do it, I can. And it makes you seem like, I know what you're talking about, like your brain never resting, because I'm the same. I have to make myself like stop building things and finish what you just started over here.
Yeah.
But I want to go do more and be more, because it inspires me. Is EXP for everybody? Probably not, because it's probably not for the people that only want to sell a couple of homes a year and are complacent and don't want to be part of the biggest thing in the whole wide world. But Jay Kinder said it to me, and that was the most profound thing that made the light bulb turn off to me. He was like, Trisha, basically you're at Blockbuster and this is Netflix. You're going to be at Blockbuster forever and by yourself if you do not open your eyes to this and come with us. This is the biggest opportunity ever. And I was like, I'm not going to be at Blockbuster by myself. Out of here, And it's been life-changing for me, because it's opened up so many different doors, so many different relationships. Oh, the people that are in my life, I think back on it some days, and even in church on Sunday, Joel Osteen said, you have to look back at the people that God put in your life and never underappreciate them. Be thankful that they were placed in your life. And I told Chuck Fazio, because he was also instrumental in me making that decision. And I told him, I feel like it's an army of people that are like out there to change the world, and God just put us all together. That's honestly how I feel, and it's the coolest thing in the whole world. And I love you, and I wouldn't know you if we weren't in the same company.
I know. And that's the part of this is that, so maybe your aspirations isn't to sell 100 homes a year or 200 homes a year. So you're like, oh, well, then EXP isn't for me because I don't want to sell 100 houses a year. Like, maybe your goals are different. Here's what I know is that we got into an environment where they're like, hey, so you've been selling 50 homes, 60 homes a year. Maybe you're only selling 30 homes a year. You know, those are the top producers. Well, how would you like to learn how to keep more of the money for selling 30 homes? Like, hey, maybe you don't have to sell 40 or 50 homes. Maybe you could just make more money selling the same amount of homes because you're going to keep more of your money. And I'm like, well, that's conversation that, nobody, right? So it didn't even necessarily have to be that, oh, you need to, come over here because you're going to grow this big, huge team and you're going to have, 25 agents, 50 agents, 60 agents. If that wasn't my goal, we still have an environment where they're like, okay, well, if that's not your goal, then let's talk about what your goal is. And maybe it's to keep more money. Maybe it's to, to have enough income to do this. Maybe it's, I want, whatever that goal is. We're just in this environment where the conversations that aren't typically had in other brokerages, they're had on a regular basis. And there's nothing off the table. Like, sometimes you're afraid to even shout out your ideas because you're like, that's stupid. That's never going to work, whatever. Like, we're like, no, tell me your stupid idea, right? Because chances are it's not stupid and it could totally freaking work. And I mean, just you name it. I don't know that I would be on a live with someone if it weren't for me making this change, because the people convinced me that I was going to be okay if I went live.
Yes. And they were doing it, so you needed to do it too. We're challenged.
Yeah. So, and it wasn't like, maybe sometimes it felt like they were dragging me, kicking and screaming, like, no, I can't push the live button. But now, like, we push the live button, like, so we're just the conversations are different. Any questions I have, and that's across the gamut. Like, I look in our, we're in this virtual world, right? We have our company's virtual. They have 60 plus hours of training a week. And that's just within that platform. Right. Us as honey badgers have another hours upon hours upon hours of training that we can dip into. And I'm not just talking hit the button and watch a recording. I'm talking live freaking training. So I pull up the training calendar that's available, and this isn't, hey, how to manage your time. Like, if you need the, hey, how to manage your time, it's in there. But it's like, hey, how to shoot video that attract this, that, and the other thing. How to run an Airbnb property to attract the most amount of bookings. How to post on Instagram to get people to, get more followers. It is like the gamut. It is not, hey, how to fill out your contract on the regular basis. They have that class, how to fill out a contract. You can watch that, go into that class as many times as you want, but I'm talking actual business building. If there's a way to incorporate that business into real estate, they have, and they've got somebody teaching the class on it. It's freaking amazing. Like, people are purchasing properties with crypto. People are purchasing, like, there's classes in our world that explain and are going over that. That is a pretty forward-thinking brokerage. And if that's something that interests me, I can tap into that anytime I want, because we're a virtual company. We've got people in California teaching classes at 9:00 their time. And guess what? I can attend that at my lunch hour because it's 9 a.m. over there and I'm learning at my lunch hour, right? Yeah.
I love that. So to sum it up, because of course we're talking about life changing, and this has been life changing, and it's going to continue. I can't even imagine what the next 5 and 10 years are going to look like. If you had to say your top 3 things or ways that EXP has improved your life, what would you say those top 3 things are?
I have mentors that I would have never had access to in a million years. Would I have access to mentors? Sure. Would I have access to the caliber of mentors that I have in my world? No, I wouldn't. I know that I wouldn't. That's been life-changing. If you don't have a coach or a mentor or somebody to help you think bigger or help you get through the things that you need to get through, because they've all been there, right? They can help you collapse time. That's been huge. The next thing is, most of us real estate agents, we don't have retirement plans, right? We just sell and sell and sell.
Yep.
And if we stop selling, we typically don't have an income. And unless you set stuff up outside of your real estate business and you have other investments, there's really no retirement plan. Well, EXP figured that out too. They're like, hey, we have something inside that we can set up basically a retirement plan for you. So, and I did that through stock. And I will tell you, and stock is kind of a taboo subject right now with what's going on. However, there was a point in time where I was sitting on well over $1 million in stock. And sometimes I would get really afraid to say that publicly. I'm not afraid to say that publicly anymore. Because that's what the truth was. And I would have never had that opportunity any other brokerage, right? And then people go, well, yeah, what's it at now? Guess what? The majority of it, I didn't even pay for. It was gifted to me, right? So it didn't cost me anything. So as long as it's worth $1 more than what I paid for it, which was $0, I'm still way ahead in that game, right? And when everything shakes out, like the stock market goes up and down, I'm going to be in a much better position than where I was. So it's given me that, right?
Yep.
Which helped me make decisions differently.
Totally.
I know what that dollar figure needs to look like in order to retire my husband. I know what that dollar figure needs to look like in order to make this happen for my kids. I know what that is. And I don't know that I would have ever had that opportunity anywhere else. No. And then, third, I would love to say it's the revenue share and whatever, and that is absolutely life-changing. And I'm watching friends of mine live incredible lives because of it. More importantly, to me, it's the relationships through that are built. Like it's freaking insane. I got to be on stage dancing with really well-known performers. People that that you pay hundreds of dollars to go see. Like I'm dancing right next to them on a stage. Like I would never have that opportunity before. I'm sitting on a yacht, taking in some boat races in Key West. I would have never had that opportunity. Just the experiences and the connections that I have it's so amazing, and I'm so grateful that those are the three things. It's those three things that have changed my life. And, you could look at me and go, that girl's freaking crazy. Well, I'm happy in my crazy little world because it's been great. And I get to call you friend. I get to call Paul friend. I mean, those are all people that weren't part of my world not 4 years ago. And I consider them some of the best friends I have in my life. And it's because of such alignment, and we're so tight that I could ask you anything. When you're opening this amazing situation, and we're like getting invites, come to my grand opening for this, and like, wow, like so cool.
It's so cool. When I'm listening to like everything you're saying in relationships and all that, it's like you can always make more money, but you can't always make more memories and more friends. I mean, it's like you guys are golden in my life, and I'm so thankful for you. If I had to like throw everything away except for one thing, and I could keep one thing with EXP, it would be my friendships, because I can always rebuild the rest of the stuff,
Oh yeah, we're always going to hustle. I'll go dig a ditch if I need to, if that's right. To support my family. Yeah. But yeah, just the outpouring of just support, even on a personal level, like, it's just amazing.
Renee, I'm so thankful to have you in my life. Thankful that you were on today. And of course, you guys, she's in Ohio, yes, but she talks to agents all over the place. Renee, if they want to learn more about you and investing, because you guys, she's got quite a portfolio that we haven't even talked about, that will be on another episode. But if you guys want to know more about that, or like why she left Keller Williams after almost 10 years and is happier than ever, how can they find you, Renee?
Yeah. So you can find me on all socials. So I am Renee Velasquez, VELASQU, easy. I know that's hard, but for the easier route, to Renee at the RSVP group. That's kind of how you'll find me on socials. I'll go ahead and put my phone number out there. It's 330-321-3339. When in doubt, throw another 3 in there. You'll probably get me. feel free to reach out and call me, private message me, and just know that anytime most people out there are like, well, I don't want to call her because then she'll tell people that I called her and they don't want their current brokerage to know. I have had more private conversations in the last 4 years that have never ever slipped to my mouth, right? Because we know how important anonymity is. And I'm happy to answer any of those questions, even if you think they're silly, right? Even if it's, hey, what's your split question? I'm going to answer you.
Yeah.
We're going to move on from it. So yeah, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help in any way that I can. And it really is. Stop doing this. Take the hand down. Learn what you need to learn and form your opinion for yourself, because I too long went like this, and I'm astounded at probably where I could be right now had I just dropped the hand and looked behind the curtain a hell of a lot sooner.
I love that. Thank you for sharing.
You're
Thank you for being here.
welcome. Thanks for having me. You're a blessing to me. I'm so grateful for you, and thanks for having me, and thanks for everybody that's tuning in and watching.
Heck yeah. You guys have a great day. Bye, y'all.